So, why am I even doing this? Well, first of all, I read an article one time that said if you're over 40, you basically should do a podcast because you know a lot about something. My expertise happens to be in the field of pharmacy. My creds, yes, those are my degrees up on top. There's lots more. It doesn't matter though. I am qualified to talk about this because I am a licensed pharmacist. I have been so for over 20 years. I am board certified in nutrition support as a specialty. I am also part of the American Institute of the History of Pharmacy. This is more than just a passion for me. It really is my whole life. One of these days, I'd love to tell you all my backstory, how I got into this, and why I'm doing this podcast. But for today, I want to talk about Amanita Muscaria. And the reason this came up is I saw an article in the news today. This is just from recently from PBS. It says mushroom microdosing trend has led to increased poison control center calls and ER visits. Now, what the hell are we talking about? Amanita muscaria is the fly agaric is that quintessential mushroom that everybody's seen, right? Has like a white stalk and it's got the red cap with the white dots. If you watched like the Smurfs or David the Gnome when you were a kid, or really any fairy tale depiction of something magical, something kind of fantasy like in the forest, you're going to see these kind of mushrooms, right? These are the ones that we equate with like Alice in Wonderland. Okay, and maybe if you've been out in the forest, you've probably seen them. They occur naturally all over North America, Europe, and into Eurasia, especially in the colder climates. So, why are they interesting? Why do we paint these? Why do they have such a position in human history? Well, I'll tell you. There are a couple of theories. Amanita muscaria contains this chemical called muscimol, and it's a really powerful psychoactive ingredient. It's a psychedelic drug. It alters perception, alters your the way you perceive time and reality. Again, very similar to like LSD or psilocybin, common hallucinogens that you might be aware of. All come from fungus, by the way, which is kind of cool. So, Amanita muscaria has a real fascinating history. It goes back at least 14,000 years ago. We have evidence in art and in cultures that still remain and have been documented as far back as like the 1800s by Western Europeans. The shamanic cultures in Siberia and northern Finland, they have an intimate relationship, shall we say, with the Amanita muscaria mushroom. So the peoples there, they knew of the psychoactive properties of this mushroom, but the problem is the mushroom itself is quite toxic. Amanita muscaria contains a compound called ibotenic acid, and that ibotenic acid is metabolized in the body to a chemical called muscimol. Muscimol is what's responsible for the psychedelic experience that the mushroom delivers. Here's the rub, though. The ibotenic acid is highly toxic, has the really unpleasant side effects of seizures and nausea and vomiting and dizziness and all sorts of other nasty stuff. So the shamans in Siberia, what they did is they used their reindeer who love to eat these mushrooms. They munch them up wherever they can find them. And the reindeer seem to be immune to the toxic effects of the ibotenic acid. So they would feed the reindeer these mushrooms, then they would collect the reindeer's urine, gross, and consume that. The reindeer's urine just having the purified muscimol without the toxic alkaloids from eating the mushroom itself. This experience caused hallucinations, euphoria, the same kind of effects we would associate with traditional hallucinogenic drugs. And the shamans would then essentially be tripping balls, get in their sleigh and fly across the tundra in their sleighs, or at least feel like they were flying, looking at the aurora borealis, having this very magical and psychedelic experience. Now, you may be seeing some parallels here, right? This is somewhat connected to our origin myths of Santa Claus. We see a lot of similarities, the red and white coloring, the northern Scandinavian mythology, this concept of flying and having a very magical persona. But the jury's out on this one. Many people feel that this is definitive, but it's mostly conjecture. Amanita muscaria is legal for all intents and purposes. It's a naturally occurring mushroom. There are no laws against it. We don't have any current drugs that are based on Amanita muscaria. But that creates a loophole. Unlike, say, psilocybin, which is your classic magic mushrooms that originate in Mexico, those ones are completely illegal by the Controlled Substances Act. But Amanita muscaria is different. It falls outside of that. So technically, they're legal. And so what the internet has allowed enterprising folks to do is sell products that contain Amanita muscaria on the web. And maybe you've seen these. They're sold as like mushroom gummies, nootropics. And again, not all the mushroom products out there would contain this. This is kind of a rarity. These are usually advertised for their psychedelic effects. So Amanita muscaria, you might remember last year there was a news article about a company called Diamond Shrooms with 2 U's. I know, weird, right? They were creating all of these mushroom gummies with Amanita muscaria, and people were eating them and getting sick and ending up at the hospital. All bad stuff. Well, it's still happening today, even though, yes, those were taken off the market, but there's nothing that the regulators can do because technically this is not a controlled substance. So if you see these things online, don't be surprised, but also don't buy them and don't eat them. Do not recommend that. So that's a little bit about the history, a little bit about the science behind it. Why is this still a thing? So people are looking for, I think, therapeutic answers nowadays. It's an age where mental health is very prominent in the spotlight. Everyone's trying to take better control of their physical and mental health. And right now we live in a climate where there's a lot of distrust of medical professionals and the medical pharmaceutical industry. And there's a lot of charlatans out there and people who will get online and say, hey, oh man, big pharma, shills for big pharma are coming at you, and you don't want that. You don't want that corporate medicine. You want something natural, something all natural, not a chemical. Well, I got news for you, buddy. Everything's a fucking chemical. All right? Chemicals are just things that are made of atoms. Atoms that are stuck together are called molecules. Every molecule is a chemical. Everything is a chemical. Therefore, it's meaningless to say, well, this is chemical free. I don't like all those chemicals. I'm really sick and tired of all the demonization of the word chemical, but let's pause on that for now. I want to get back to microdosing mushrooms. Why are people even doing this anyway? Well, everyone's looking for an edge. Everyone's looking for something non-traditional. And everybody wants to feel like they're smart. Everyone wants to feel like they found something special that all of you sheep, all of you folks out there who are just following along, you guys aren't in on the new shit. I know. See, I got the secret knowledge. Well, everyone likes to think that, but the truth is, most people don't have that. There's this idea that this knowledge about drugs is somehow secret and hidden, and like we're keeping it all from the public. That's not true at all. I went to school for a long time to learn how to be a pharmacist. I've devoted my whole life to this profession, and I believe in democratization of knowledge. I want to talk to you about this. I want to share what I know. I want to dispel myths. Hopefully in the future, I'll be doing some reaction videos to some misinformation that's out there, because God knows there's a ton. But again, back to microdosing. So who's doing this? We're seeing like tech bros. We're seeing Silicon Valley executives. We're seeing folks who are trying to, I don't know, expand their mind, find ways to enhance their creativity, and people at the upper echelons of society have been doing this forever. This is not a new phenomenon. Drugs are always most popular with the rich before they trickle down to the poor. Again, I'll talk about that in a future episode. But when we're looking at Amanita Muscaria, this has become a because we can type of phenomenon rather than a because we should. All right. If they could put psilocybin into gummies and sell them at vape shops, they totally would, but they can't because that's illegal. So we go to what other psychoactive mushrooms do we have, right? Okay, we've got Amanita Muscaria. Okay, not a great choice, but technically, yes, it is a psychoactive mushroom. Could it be lethal? Depends in enough of a high enough dose. So the problem is the FDA has kind of sort of stepped in and said, hey, we think these things are unsafe. But that's about as far as they go, right? In order to actually move this drug into a different legal category, the DEA would have to act, or the FDA would have to say, hey, this is adulterated, right? There's an unreasonable risk of illness or injury. Does this have any value at all? Well, actually, it does. So researchers have done studies on muscimol. They have done studies on extracts from the Amanita muscaria mushroom, and here's what they found. There's a study published just in April. Researchers found that in rats, if you inject muscimol into their brains after they've had these what they call dopaminergic lesions, some type of brain damage. Think of it kind of like Alzheimer's disease. I'm generalizing here. Don't roast me in the comments, neurologists. Anyways, what they found was that rats with brain damage, essentially in these dopaminergic lesions, they inject muscimol, and it actually reduces the damage that's been done. They actually have less memory loss over time after injecting this drug. So I think there is a potential, right? There's a potential for some pharmaceutical innovation. And I think there always is, really. There's a potential for new drugs to be developed. There's a potential for, possibly new treatments for Alzheimer's, for dementia, for other severe neurological conditions. But I think that's still a ways off. So, and given where we're at today, I don't like to be political, but we're going to have to be. Sorry. You got like RFK Jr. in there at the head of the HHS. You've got a lot of misinformation coming out, both from the federal government and from just dudes on the internet. And I happen to be one. So I'm going to do my best to kind of work against the tide of misinformation, kind of dispel that, and also to hopefully entertain you a little bit on the way and share my passion for pharmacy, for the history and the science and pop culture of drugs. So thanks so much. We're getting up on 15, 16 minutes here, so don't want to keep you too long. If you enjoyed this, please share it with a friend. Give it a like, add a comment, subscribe. You can check out my website at RxTales. That's RxTales.com. You can check us out on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram and YouTube at RxTales, RxTales podcast. So you can check us out there, link in the bio there. And again, leave me a comment. What do you think? What do you think about mushrooms and microdosing? Safe? Should you? Why? Why not? I want to hear your take on it. That's all for today. My name is Dr. Mark Fulton. You guys have a great one. We'll be back next week with another episode of RxTales.